Hey y'all, this is Jacqueline over here at Homeschool Hangout, and I am a veteran homeschooler who is in her 18th year, oh my goodness, of homeschooling. And today I am sharing 3 of my tried and true homeschool curriculum favorites. If you like these kinds of videos, do me a favor, thumbs up, like, subscribe. If you're here in California, make sure to also check out my California content to help you homeschool with calmness and clarity. And let's get into it. So these are 3 big kind of publisher curriculum things with some specifics in it. You'll see what I mean. And this is also part of a Homeschool Favorites Curriculum Edition Roundup collaboration. So at the end of this video, not now, go down to the bottom and you'll see a playlist and you'll get to see what other people in the homeschool community like. But first and foremost, this is probably one of my most talked about favorites. You see I have a ring light right there. And it is Singapore Math. I used this in elementary school and junior high for all 4 of my children. I loved it. I got my nephew caught up probably 3 grade levels in less than 6 months by using this after pulling him out. He had a first or second grade math, and we got him up to grade level using this, kind of skipping through it. I love this. I like it for a few reasons. One, it used to be very affordable. I'm hearing it's a little bit more expensive, but these used to be about less than $10 a book. And I hear they are more expensive, but they're really good. I really like them. I didn't use them alone. If my kids needed extra practice, I would go to the math worksheet site. But I loved these. So they had workbooks and textbooks. And your textbook is kind of what you expect it to be. It's very colorful. It breaks down the information very easily. You've got some problems. You've got some explanations. This is the 1B, second semester, first grade one. But then you also had workbooks. And I will be honest, my kids, very young, kind of made me realize they didn't want me to teach them math. They wanted to try it, and then if they had questions, they came to me. And then I lectured. So we kind of did a backwards, which frankly is the same model my second semester calculus teacher used in high school. And it works really well for kids who already have some basic familiarity with math. So then they've got these workbooks. And I think this is a brand new workbook. Yeah, this is a brand new copy. I had some extra copies. And my kids loved it. They'd start with the workbook, see if they knew how to do it, then read the textbook, and then if they didn't, they'd come to me. In addition to these kinds of things, they also had a combination Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 set that we used. I think it was called NIM. It's in the other room. One of the big keys, though, is make sure you get the U.S. edition. It uses proper words, meaning like dollars instead of pounds or euros and things like that. And they spell things the normal American way, which isn't a huge deal, but it is something to be aware of. But I liked this, and I use this seriously. They have a pre-K, I think, book set all the way up until they got into higher levels math. We went from pre-K to Algebra 2, and then I put them in Bob Jones University Press, or BJU Press, Algebra 2, which I also really loved. You can see some other videos I've made talking about that. But Singapore Math was key in our household. Next thing that was really a big deal, even though I have confessed we've never finished an entire book, is Story of the World. Now, there are multiple years worth of Story of the World. There's lots of things that they sell. And the things I always bought is I bought this book, which is their main, I don't want to say textbook, but their main book, which frankly, I don't know if it's needed in some ways, but I liked it. This, though, is my key. This is their activity book, and they have one for every year. So they've got 4 basic years, and this is aimed at multi-aged education. This is based in the classical model, and meaning that they're going to go through it multiple times in their schooling. And why that's important. So this is the magic book. This is the activity book. And the activity book, you can also buy photocopies of all this stuff outside for your kids. It has activities. It has, let me go through one. Chapter 27, The Rise of Rome. you have encyclopedia cross-references. So this, if you use the Usborne Book of World History, tells you what page to go to. If you use the Usborne Internet Linked Encyclopedia, tells you what page to go to. Kingfisher Illustrated History of the World, and tells you all the pages. And this one, you say, that's so intuitive, though. No. 66, 67, 104, and 105, because they kind of come back around. Kingfisher History Encyclopedia. Also, what pages? It gives you review questions to ask. Can you tell me the names of the 3 empires that came before Rome? And that parallels directly with the section you read out of this. They also have a narration exercise. I feel that narration is so key in helping them pull the main ideas out of what they read. So this actually says, in case you don't have an idea of what you want to ask them, now ask the child to retell the story of Romulus and Remus in 3 to 5 sentences. Make sure the child includes the information that Rome was named after Romulus. An acceptable story might sound like this, and they give you an example. Or have them draw a picture of some part of the story. So they give you some different ideas. They can write it, they can speak it, they can just gives you an idea of how to make sure that they're understanding the main ideas. And each chapter often is broken into a couple sections, so you've got some more review questions on the next section. And I'm going through this would be considered like a chapter that would take you a week or 2 or 3 weeks, however long you want it to take. More narration exercises. But then here's the magic to me of this book. Additional history reading. And what they do is they give you 3 books here, and their names, the authors, all that good stuff, and kind of gives you an introduction to it. So the first one is, Who Were the Romans? Usborne Starting Point History by Phil Roxby Cox. The year it was published. A very elementary, easy to read introduction to Roman culture, put out by Usborne Books. And no, not everything is Usborne in here. And then it's followed by RA for Read Aloud. Roman News, the greatest newspaper in civilization. And it goes through and describes it. And it also says, it's a good way to introduce younger children. So it's aimed at younger children, but that's a read aloud. Then you've got the Tools of Ancient Romans, Kids Guide to History, and Science of Life in Ancient Rome. And it tells you read aloud and activity. Now, the next part, corresponding literature. So we've gotten the history reading. Now we're going into the literature reading. Roman Myths by Geraldine McCree. It's not McCree. I'm saying it wrong. It's a Scottish-Irish name. I'm not going to kill that any more than I already have. It says, maybe out of print, so check your library. And most of these, I didn't buy any of the books other than the encyclopedia. I checked out books from the library. But it goes through, colorful, engaging, read aloud. But it tells you, read aloud for 1st through 3rd grade, independent reading for 3rd through 6th grade. And it breaks them all down. Romans, Myth, and Legends. Read aloud for 1st through 3rd, independent reading 3rd through 5th. Romulus and Remus, ready to read level 2. Independent reading for many children, read aloud for early beginners. So it gives you some guidance as to, if you're like, you know what, I'm only going to read aloud 1 book, but I want lots of independent reading. You can do that. And every chapter has books. It also has map work. So if you go to page 84 here in the student section, or in your little kit that you bought, because I went ahead and bought it. Here's your map. Okay? And it tells you, on your map, circle Rome with red crayon. Rome is in Italy. Number 2, the Etruscans lived and ruled the area north of Rome. Find the borders on your map and outline them in blue. So every time you have some very simple map work, and what this does is this activates a visual learning and a tactile learning, because you're writing on a map and your brain remembers that differently than things you've been told or just read. Then you have a coloring page. That's the next page in it. So let me show you here. 85. So here's a picture of Romulus and Remus that you can color. And these are great too if you are reading aloud. Talk about the picture, have them start coloring, and then read something aloud to them. If their hands are working, their brains work differently too. And this is for different children. Different children will handle that differently. But I can tell you with my ADHD kid, it really helped. But then, I'm not a creative mom. I admit it. I'm just not. I'm creative in different ways, but not with like kids' activities. You have project ideas, and you don't have to do them if you don't want to, and you can do some of them and not all of them. And like, so the first one is make a Roman hairpiece. And, you know, it goes through the materials you'll need, the directions, because they're saying, you know, they fancy hairstyles, so they wore wigs or hair pieces. And, you know, how to do it, cut a strip of construction paper long enough to fit around their head, staple the ends, glue braids and stuff on. It's really fun. Another one, make fasces. And it goes through how to do that. You know, cut out the shape of an axe blade from a piece of cardboard. Cover it with aluminum, and goes through. You can make a Saturnalia gift if you want. You can run up a penis or a Roman takeout restaurant. And it goes through, you know, you can make some Roman coins, you can make posters. And it goes through and tells you what to do. Now, one of the fun things is if you need some templates, let me find you a template. Or more, you know, if you're going to make an aqueduct, which is the next chapter, here's an aqueduct template. Now, one year for Halloween, what we did is we actually took what we were doing and put it into their Halloween costumes. My girls were Queen Boudica and her daughters. And it told you like how to make like a little cloak for them. You know, you make a little belt or necklace with the fake jewels. And the boys made cardboard armor for being part of the Romans. And that included a standard that they held. It walked through how to make the cardboard, and you poke holes in it and take shoelaces. It was really fun. And it wasn't super hard because, like I said, I'm not super crafty. And my kids had so much fun being the Celts versus the Romans. And I have 2 and 2, so it worked out well. And they have all different types. They have, I believe it's 3 years of this. And it's in history chunks. This first one's ancient history, or ancient times, from the earliest nomads to the last Roman emperor. And so they have sets of those. You can buy audio books where they'll read this to you. People I know who drive a lot, they were doing it in the car. They even walk you through how to mummify a chicken if you want to do that. I found it a little gross. So you don't have to do all the activities. I did the Delta Nile, the Nile Delta, but I never, ever considered doing the chicken. And so they've got different levels, different intensities, and you don't have to do any of them. This is all optional. Okay, the last one is almost more of a publisher than an actual curriculum. Hold on. And it is the Critical Thinking Company. I just pulled 2 of the books I have from them, but they are so one of my favorites all the way through high school. Sorry, got a little ugh. And I've just got a couple things. They really work on logic, and they'll work on logic in different areas. So we got this one, which is Word Roots A1, and they go up in levels. And it literally, let me go to a page that they didn't do. So you see here, focus. We're going to look at the POS, and that is a prefix. Here we've got prefixes, com, d, x, m, op, and with their definitions. Then the root, POS, place, put, posit, like deposit, compose. And then suffixes with it, ION, which is State Quality Act. And then we go through and identify the parts of the words by circling the roots. And then choose the best word from column A for each sentence. And so this is a really great way to help them break down language, and it helps them to approach more complex words. They have multiple levels of this specific book, and I really like it. One of the first things, though, we got the kids on this building thinking skills. This is book 2, grades 4 to 6. Their first one, I think, is like 2nd to 3rd, and they're chonky. So don't be intimidated. They are chonky. Do as much as you want. Don't do it. Whatever. But what I like here is, so I'll pop into the table of contents here. Chapter 7, verbal similarities and differences. Opposites, you select. Opposites, supply. Similarities, select. Similarities, supply. How alike, how different. Word webs, compare and contrast with a graphic organizer. And I really like these. You do have answers in the back, so depending on you and your children, whether or not you leave them there. And it's not all written stuff. You see, like this is 4th through 6th. There's not a lot of questions on it. So doing a page to get your brain warmed up in the morning, or 5 pages even, isn't a big deal. We gave our children rewards as they finished books. Let's see. Like here, living things. Branching diagrams for exercises. They graphically organize some material. One of the other things I like, though, is this covers lots of different things. You get into spatial and graphics, because that is a huge part of logic. I can tell you that as a math nerd, but also somebody who likes logic teaching. There is a difference between this type of mathematical logic and just word logic. They go hand in hand, and teaching both can be very important. And so like this one is, if the figure was cut along the dotted lines, which of these figures could be formed? And you go through, and there are multiple books going up multiple levels, and it's progressive, and you do as much or as little as you want both of these books, but of the series. I'll be honest, I didn't do any high school or older level. We did the first 2 books to really get them a nice firm foundation. We also did their editor-in-chief, which I love. If you've heard me talk about teaching grammar, I feel that editing is one of the best ways to teach someone, better than a lesson per se. And the studies on learning grammar are really interesting about it doesn't need to be a subject every year. They also have things like the Science Detective series. I'm looking at this little list here. They have riddles. They have all kinds of fun and hard stuff. Fun and easy stuff. I love them. We had so many different things from them that were really fun. And that was the thing. For us, logic is a huge part of why we homeschool. It doesn't seem to be taught as much in the public schools or even in private schools. And so we didn't want to rely on some homeschoolers in the semi-classical, because we're kind of like a classical unschooling, is very much, well, then you need to teach Latin starting in 1st grade, and you need to teach that every year, or Greek, or all of this like really deep work. And we found that using stuff like this made it fun and light, and got them going down the path before they took on more difficult stuff like in math and science, and even in their English and writing. So we loved them. I have gotten a lot of things from them, but not everything. And they do just put out coupons, which I loved. I'd watch the coupons, and I'd get stuff like, 30% off. But I haven't used everything, but I've never gotten anything I didn't love. So that's the best I can give you. These, for me, were 3 pillars of our, especially elementary school education system. And I love them. If you have any questions, do me a favor. Let me know down in the comments, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.